Hey, what's up guys? I'm KBHD here. And you know what's exciting? We just started the second half of 2020 and we're expecting a lot more major releases in just the tech world in general. We saw a lot of minor stuff in the first half, but just in the smartphone world, Pixel 5 is probably coming, along with maybe Pixel 4a, Galaxy Note 20 and maybe Note 20 Ultra, Galaxy Fold 2, Asus ROG Phone 3, OnePlus Nord, and iPhone 12, just to name a few. So this video is what I'm hoping for based on what we think we know about iPhone 12 and what I have here, which are the classic mid-year dummy models of the iPhone that come out that sort of ideally, hopefully represent something like what we're going to see in the final version in September. So the theme that I'm going to blanket over everything we see here is iPad Pro. A lot of the changes and improvements and additions we're expecting and hoping to see in this next iPhone are kind of already in the iPad Pro, one of my favorite gadgets in a long time. But first thing you'll notice about this iPhone 12 stuff is the sizes. There's 3 sized models here representing basically what we'll see as iPhone 12, iPhone 12 Pro, and iPhone 12 Pro Max. But this time, as you can see, the non-Pro phone is the smallest iPhone, unlike previous years where it was like the middle size. And then the approximate screen sizes we're looking at here are 5.4 inches, 6.2 inches, and 6.7 inches. Now, if you know me, you know I'm a big phone person, but I've been using the smaller iPhone lately, and I think a lot of people are going to appreciate this smallest version of the iPhone 12. It's like the closest thing to what we've been hoping for, which is a refinement of that old square design. And 5.4 inches as a screen size is surprisingly compact. And just for some perspective, the last time we had a Samsung flagship of that screen size was Galaxy S7. So I've always given out a best small phone of the year in my smartphone awards at the end of every year. And it seems like it's always just the smallest iPhone versus whoever else decided to make something like a small flagship in the past year, because it's just a rare thing to do. So I have a feeling it's gonna look the same way this year with this small iPhone. And then at the other end of the spectrum, the biggest iPhone is even bigger. 6.7 inches is massive. That would be the biggest iPhone ever, and also consequently their biggest battery ever, and the most room internally in any iPhone. But really, I gotta say, after all these iOS 14 updates we got with the widgets and everything, this is probably the phone that's most likely to take the biggest advantage of it. This is probably the phone I'm gonna end up with. But if you want a breakdown of all the iOS 14 features that we have seen, link below the like button. It's a lot of stuff, and it's, I think, one of the biggest updates ever. But anyway, here's a little mock-up, thanks to the magic of video editing, of what that huge screen might look like on iPhone 12 Pro. That's my iOS 14 home screen right now, and it's just a massive canvas for watching videos and gaming, multitasking, and all that sweet iOS 14 picture-in-picture stuff. Plus, the notch does look a little bit smaller when the screen is a little bit bigger. And I guess that brings us naturally to the design, which you've definitely noticed by now. Straight from the iPad Pro, we got these squared off flat sides. And you know what that means. It'll stand up on its own without a stand now. I don't know why that's so satisfying to me, but it's just fun that it does that. Now, I know most people have a case on their phone, but if I can just speak to the small minority of us who carry a phone naked, who don't have a case on it and who feel it every day, the rounded sides of the iPhone were just a little less satisfying to hold, and these flat sides it just feels more secure and just more confidence inspiring. So beyond just the aesthetics of looking better with flat sides, I really do think like it feels better to have flat sides. So now it inherits that cleaner, more modern iPad Pro look. And we're still looking at a pretty similar camera bump on the back, Apple logo in the middle of the phone. It's still familiar iPhone, as we've said for like the last 10 straight years. But that's what Apple does. You know, they know being a better but still familiar version of what they've done for so long is just gonna work, and that's about as big of a design change as we expect to see. Now, the notch on the front, this is something the models can easily get wrong. My wish list is smaller notch, just purely for aesthetic reasons, but I also know that to keep Face ID and to keep all those sensors means you still gotta keep some kind of notch, so I don't expect it to be a drastic change until they get rid of it completely. That day may come somewhere in the distant future when they decide to add Touch ID back underneath the glass of the iPhone, but generally I wouldn't expect any drastic change with the notch this year. Also, you know how last year they said Face ID would get faster and work at more angles? I hope they take another meaningful step in that direction again this year, because, you know, it's better by a little bit, but I still, even at like a 45-degree angle, have to do that like lean to get it to see and recognize my face. So I hope that gets better. And then these models are usually pretty accurate with external dimensions. And so if they are again here, these new iPhones are actually pretty thin. You know, just a tiny bit, maybe a 0.5 millimeter thinner than current phones, but they just feel thinner because of the flat sides. And just overall, the design reminds me not of the iPhone 5S, possibly the most beloved iPhone design of all time, but it actually reminds me of iPhone 4, just more of a straight up glass sandwich that actually lacks the chamfered edges. You know, maybe they'll get that chamfer machine going for lucky iPhone 13. And then, you know what else we can't tell from these dummy models is the display's refresh rate. So number one item on my wish list for the new iPhones is a ProMotion 120 hertz display, just like we've seen on a bunch of other phones so far this year, just like we've seen on iPad Pro. Rumor mill suggests we should see it on at least some of the new iPhones, maybe just the Pro models, maybe just the biggest one. That's another one of the weird rumors kicking around right now, but I am looking forward to it catching up and having a high refresh rate on the new iPhone. That port at the bottom, probably Lightning again. You know, as much as I wish they'd also grab USB Type-C from the iPad Pro, this is one of those things Apple's been the most stubborn about. Not that there's anything physically wrong with the Lightning port for most people, it's just USB Type-C is better and way more universal. And then let's talk about these cameras for a second. So not expecting a huge drastic change for the new cameras, but there have been some lines in iOS 14 code dug up that suggest a couple new features. So currently iPhones max out at 4K 60, or if you want super slow motion 240 FPS, that's 1080p. But those new lines of code suggest new iPhones will be able to do 4K 240 FPS, which is just silly. But it's funny, I have dedicated cameras here in the studio that are not capable of 4K 240 FPS. I think the Red camera is barely capable of that in the first place. That's just Apple straight flexing their image processing pipeline, and their new performance, whatever the new chip is in the iPhone, should be top-notch as usual. Get it? Top-notch? Anyway, you can see on the models, the smallest iPhone, the iPhone 12, has 2 cameras, while the Pro models have 3. Makes sense, but it also has me wondering about that LiDAR. Remember LiDAR on the iPad Pro's cameras for better and faster AR experiences? The question for me when we saw that was, okay, is that now required for Apple's vision of the future of AR? And if so, are we going to see it in every new iPhone? So that's an unknown right now, but that's something to keep an eye out for. As of right now, this suggests we won't have LiDAR. And also, another little thing, you see this extra little button down here on the bottom left corner on this model? What is that? It's not the power button. That's still in its normal place on the top right. So this little extra button, which is on the bottom left of the 12 Pro and on the middle left and middle right of the 12 Pro Max, is that a fingerprint reader? Is that a smart connector for some sort of accessories or wireless charging accessory? My answer is I don't know. It doesn't appear at all in the smallest non-Pro iPhone. The rumors suggest it's probably not a smart connector and maybe just a magnetic charging accessory or something like that, but we don't have, of course, the final iPhone in front of us, do we? So that's some speculation we're going to have to keep an eye on. And then 5G. This is another one that you can't tell from the models, but we're expecting 5G to make its way to the iPhone 12 lineup. And again, it could have some variety across the line where we see millimeter wave only on certain models, or we might not see 5G on every single new iPhone 12. That's up to Apple. But generally, when you get a 5G phone, you're expecting higher prices because of the new modems and higher power draw. But again, the biggest phone has the biggest battery ever in an iPhone, so we'll see how Apple handles that. And then a frosted glass back, potentially, on the Pro. Like, as long as we're doing wish list stuff, if we're just looking at how reflective. If we could have a non-glossy black phone, like maybe like a matte black phone this year, that'd be pretty sick. But anyway, that is pretty much it. And honestly, taking a step back, I think this new hardware design combined with iOS 14 is potentially one of the biggest changes to the iPhone we've seen in a long time, and I'm liking a lot of it. Again, nothing is final. It's still months away. This is all a combination of speculation and rumors and my own wish list, but there's a lot to look forward to for the second half of 2020, including iPhone 12. Let me know what you think in the comment section below, what you're expecting. Either way, Thanks for watching. Catch you guys very soon in the next one. Peace.